On a rainy night in Dallas, a humble mechanic, a little boy, and a young woman in a wheelchair cross paths by fate. What began as a simple act of kindness soon uncovers a hidden truth and changes their lives forever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started. In the heart of Dallas, Texas, where the nights were long and the streets often quiet, Jack worked tirelessly in his small, worn-down garage. At 32, he carried the weight of responsibilities most men twice his age struggled with. His garage wasn't much, just a tin-roof structure at the corner of a dimly lit street, but it was enough to provide for his 8-year-old son, Noah. Jack had learned early on that life rarely gave second chances. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him both mother and father to Noah. That loss hardened him, but also taught him compassion for others who struggled. The rain poured steadily one evening, drumming against the thin metal roof of the garage. Jack was just finishing up a long shift, wiping grease from his hands with a rag that was almost as worn as his overalls. He had promised Noah they would head home soon, and the boy waited patiently, curled up in a corner with an old comic book. Jack glanced at him often, smiling at how resilient his son was, despite everything. To Jack, Noah wasn't just his child, he was his anchor, the reason he kept pushing through exhaustion day after day. As Jack locked up the garage, he noticed movement on the other side of the street. A young woman, no older than 28, struggled against the slick pavement as her wheelchair tilted on a crack in the uneven sidewalk. The small front wheel had jammed in place, leaving her stranded in the rain. She pushed forward with determination, but the chair refused to budge. Jack didn't hesitate. Instinctively, he called to Noah to grab his jacket and umbrella, then jogged across the road, rain soaking through his shirt within seconds. "Hang on, I've got you," Jack said gently as he crouched beside the chair. His rough, grease-stained hands inspected the wheel with a practiced eye. Years of fixing cars and machines had given him an instinct for repairs, and though this wasn't an engine, it was still a machine that needed care. The young woman looked at him, her dark hair damp with rain, her expression a mixture of embarrassment and relief. "I'm sorry," she murmured softly. "I didn't mean to be a bother." Her voice carried the exhaustion of someone who was used to struggling alone. Jack shook his head firmly. "No trouble at all. You're stuck, and I know a thing or two about wheels," he replied with a half-smile. Noah, meanwhile, stood close by, holding the umbrella above her to shield her from the downpour. The boy's innocent eyes glimmered with curiosity and kindness, and he offered her a reassuring smile. "My dad can fix anything," Noah said proudly, his voice small but confident. The young woman's lips curved into a faint smile at the boy's words, a warmth flickering through her eyes despite the chill of the rain. Working quickly, Jack pulled a small toolkit from his pocket. He always carried it, a habit born from years of emergencies and roadside calls. With practiced motions, he loosened the jammed wheel, realigned the axle, and tightened the bolts. The rain plastered his hair to his forehead, but he barely noticed. All he saw was the determination in her eyes, fading into relief as the chair finally rolled forward smoothly. "There we go," he said, giving the wheel a final spin. "Good as new, for now. But you'll need a proper replacement soon. This one's been through a lot." The young woman looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come by." Her words carried genuine emotion, not the polite thanks people often gave. She extended her hand. "I'm Anna." Jack wiped his hand on his rag before shaking hers gently. "Jack," he said simply. Then he nodded toward the boy. "And this is Noah, my right-hand man." Noah grinned, lowering the umbrella just enough to peek at her. "Hi," he said shyly. Anna's smile widened as she looked at him, touched by his sweet gesture in the middle of a storm. For Jack, the moment felt strangely different than the countless times he had helped strangers. He couldn't explain why, but there was something. In Anna's eyes, a quiet strength mixed with loneliness that stirred something deep inside him. Maybe it was because he saw the same resilience in her that he had been forced to find within himself after his wife's passing. Maybe it was because Noah, who rarely warmed up to new people, seemed instantly protective and kind toward her. Whatever it was, the moment lingered, carving itself into Jack's heart as more than just an act of kindness. The rain began to lighten, turning into a misty drizzle. Jack adjusted the umbrella over Anna one last time, making sure she wouldn't get drenched again. "Do you live nearby?" he asked. She nodded. "Just a couple of blocks away. I can make it from here." But before she could push herself forward, Noah frowned. "It's still slippery," he said earnestly, "and the wheel might get stuck again. Let us walk with you." Anna looked surprised, her lips parting slightly at the boy's concern. Jack chuckled softly, ruffling his son's hair. "He's right. We'll walk you home if that's okay." Anna hesitated only a moment before nodding gratefully. Together, the three of them moved through the quiet streets of Dallas, illuminated only by scattered streetlights reflecting against puddles on the ground. Noah walked on one side, chattering about his favorite comic book, while Jack pushed lightly on the wheelchair to guide it over rough patches. Anna listened, her laughter occasionally breaking through as Noah's innocent stories brought color to the dreary night. For a brief stretch of time, the weight of Jack's struggles lifted, replaced by the simple warmth of human connection under the rain's gentle patter. When they reached Anna's apartment building, she turned to Jack with eyes that held more gratitude than words could capture. "You didn't just fix my chair tonight," she said softly. "You reminded me that kindness still exists." Jack felt his chest tighten at her words, unsure how to respond. He had always believed in helping others, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Yet hearing her say it made him realize how much a small act could mean to someone else. Noah, standing between them, beamed proudly, as if he had been part of something important. Anna waved goodbye before wheeling herself inside, and Jack watched until the door closed. As they turned to walk home, Noah tugged on his father's hand. "Dad," he said quietly, "she was really nice. Do you think we'll see her again?" Jack smiled faintly, looking up at the dim glow of the streetlight above. "Maybe," he answered. But deep inside, he felt something stir, a quiet certainty that this wasn't the end of their story. That night, under the rain-soaked skies of Dallas, what began as a simple repair on a broken wheelchair had unknowingly set in motion a chain of events that would change all of their lives forever. Over the next few weeks, Jack found himself crossing paths with Anna more often than he expected. At first, it was chance encounters, passing her on the street or seeing her near the grocery store, but soon she began stopping by his garage, sometimes under the excuse of having him check her wheelchair, other times just to talk. Jack never minded. The once lonely space filled with a quiet warmth whenever she was around. Noah especially seemed to brighten when Anna visited, always eager to tell her about his school projects or share the small drawings he made in his spare time. Jack couldn't ignore how naturally Anna blended into their little world. She laughed at Noah's silly jokes, listened attentively to his stories, and even teased Jack occasionally about his obsession with keeping every tool in its exact place. For Jack, whose days were usually a blur of grease, engines, and exhaustion, Anna brought a refreshing calm. Her presence made the air feel lighter, as if the struggles that weighed him down could be set aside for a while. Evenings didn't feel as lonely anymore, because he knew there was someone who genuinely cared to visit. One afternoon, Jack noticed a squeak in her wheelchair while she sat nearby watching Noah attempt to draw superheroes on scrap paper. "Sounds like that left wheel could use some tightening," Jack said, crouching beside her. Anna smiled. "You have ears sharper than a mechanic should," she teased. Jack chuckled, tightening the bolt quickly, but as he worked, he realized something. He wasn't just fixing her chair anymore. He was protecting her comfort, ensuring she had one less burden to carry. For someone who had spent years carrying his own weight alone, it felt meaningful to share that responsibility. Noah adored Anna more with each passing day. Sometimes he would sit beside her while Jack worked, asking questions about her life, or offering her small things he treasured, like a pebble he thought looked cool, or a sticker he had saved from school. Anna accepted each gift with genuine delight, treating the boy's gestures as though they were priceless treasures. Jack watched these exchanges with quiet gratitude. His son had missed the warmth of a motherly presence for so long, and though Anna was not there to fill that role, her kindness gave Noah something he had desperately needed: affection. The garage, once a place of solitude, slowly became filled with laughter and conversation. Jack, who rarely allowed himself to relax, found himself smiling more. He had grown, so accustomed to routine, fixing cars, paying bills, raising Noah, that he had almost forgotten what companionship felt like. Anna changed that without even trying. She would sit in her wheelchair, legs neatly folded, and tell stories about books she loved or describe the places she dreamed of visiting. Jack listened quietly, his heart unknowingly absorbing the warmth of her words, each one softening the edges of the loneliness he had carried. For years, still, Jack often wondered about Anna's life outside of these visits. She always deflected questions about her family or her work, steering the conversation back to him or Noah. He didn't press her. He respected her privacy, yet something about her poise and the calm confidence in her voice hinted at a background that was different from the ordinary struggles of Dallas life. He would sometimes catch himself thinking, why would someone like her spend so much time here, in a dingy garage, with a poor single dad and his son? But the thought always faded, replaced by simple gratitude that she chose to. One cloudy afternoon, as the rain tapped lightly on the garage roof, Anna finally opened up. She had been quieter than usual, watching Jack repair a small engine while Noah colored nearby. After a long pause, she said softly, "There's something I should tell you, Jack." He looked up, sensing the seriousness in her tone. Anna folded her hands in her lap, her eyes searching his as though afraid of his reaction. "I'm not just who you think I am," she began. Jack frowned, unsure what she meant. "What do you mean?" he asked, setting down his wrench. Taking a deep breath, Anna continued, "My family is different. My father is one of the most well-known philanthropists in the state. We've always been involved in charities, healthcare projects, programs for children in need. But I've kept my identity quiet. I wanted to live like an ordinary person, to know who would care for me without seeing money, status, or influence first." Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "When you helped me that night, you didn't know who I was. You didn't see wealth. You just saw someone who needed help." Jack sat in silence, the weight of her confessions sinking in. His mind replayed that rainy night, the broken wheelchair, her soft voice, Noah's umbrella. He hadn't thought twice about helping her. He hadn't cared who she was or what she owned. To him, she was simply a woman in need. Slowly, he wiped his hands on a rag, his voice steady but quiet. "So, you're saying you're not just Anna who stops by my garage?" She shook her head gently. "I'm still Anna, that's who I am. But yes, I come from a family most people would treat very differently." Noah, too young to fully understand, looked between them with wide eyes. "Does this mean you're rich?" he asked innocently. Anna smiled, a little amused. "It means my family has money, yes. But that's not what matters to me, Noah. What matters is kindness, the kind your dad showed me without asking for anything in return." Jack's chest tightened at her words. He didn't feel like a hero. He had simply done what he thought was right, Yet in her eyes, his actions had meant more than he realized. It humbled him, but also unsettled him. For a long moment, Jack stared at the floor, unsure what to say. He was a poor mechanic, a single father barely making ends meet. What did someone like Anna see in him, or in his little garage? He wasn't. Accustomed to people with wealth stepping into his world, part of him wanted to pull away, to protect himself and Noah from disappointment. But another part, the part that had grown to trust Anna, told him not to judge her by the wealth she came from. She had been honest, vulnerable even, and he respected her more for it. Anna reached for his hand, her fingers brushing lightly against his rough, calloused ones. "Jack," she said softly, "please don't see me any differently now. I'm still the same woman whose wheelchair you fixed in the rain. I came here because this place, your company, your son, it all makes me feel like I belong somewhere real. Money can't give me that." Jack's eyes met hers, and in that moment he saw not wealth or status, but the same warmth he had felt from the very first night. Her truth didn't build walls between them, it revealed how much she trusted him. That evening, after Anna left, Jack sat on the old couch in the corner of the garage, watching Noah sleep peacefully on his lap. He thought about her words, about the difference between helping someone out of duty and helping because you truly cared. He realized that without meaning to, Anna had become more than just a visitor. She was part of their world now. Her presence, a source of light in the darkness they had long endured. The truth she had revealed didn't scare him. It made him more certain than ever that their story was only just beginning. When Anna revealed her truth, Jack thought that would be the end, that their worlds were simply too different. But instead of pulling away, she surprised him by inviting him to meet her family. Jack was hesitant, unsure of what he would say to a man of such stature. He was just a struggling mechanic, a single dad scraping by to give his son a decent life. Yet the sincerity in Anna's eyes gave him courage. She wasn't bringing him into her world out of pity. She was doing it because she believed he belonged there too. The day Jack and Noah visited Anna's home was unlike anything they had ever experienced. The mansion stood tall, its gates opening to reveal lush gardens and sparkling fountains. Noah's eyes widened in wonder, clutching his father's hand tightly as they stepped inside. Jack, however, kept his head steady, his calloused hands feeling out of place against the polished marble floors. Still, he noticed how Anna remained close by, reassuring him with gentle smiles. She wanted him there not because of wealth or appearances, but because of the man she had come to trust. When they finally met Anna's father, Robert, the moment was tense at first. The 58-year-old philanthropist was a man of presence, calm, dignified, with eyes that seemed to measure every person who stood before him. He extended his hand to Jack, firm but respectful. Jack braced himself for judgment, but instead Robert said quietly, "Anna has told me about you. She says you are the man who gave her back her confidence, not because of who she is, but simply because she needed help." Those words instantly softened the tension, and Jack felt a wave of relief. As they sat together, Anna shared the story of how Jack had fixed her wheelchair that rainy night, expecting nothing in return. Robert listened intently, his expression gradually changing. He wasn't moved by the technical skill, though that impressed him too, but by the humility in Jack's actions. "Do you know," Robert said slowly, "that I've searched for years for people like you, people who act from kindness, not ambition." Jack lowered his gaze, uncomfortable with praise, but Anna smiled proudly at him. It was the first time. Jack realized how deeply she respected him. Robert then revealed a plan he had long dreamed of, but struggled to put into motion, expanding his foundation's work to create mobility devices for those who couldn't afford them. "I've had the resources," he admitted, "but I've lacked someone who understands not just machines, but people. someone who sees the dignity in giving freedom back to another. Turning to Jack, he continued, "Anna believes you're that man." The words struck Jack like thunder. Never in his life had anyone suggested he could lead something greater than his small garage. He sat in silence, grappling with the weight of the opportunity. That night, after returning home, Jack lay awake thinking about everything Robert had said. His garage had always been a place for patching up broken engines, fixing worn-out parts, and surviving day to day. Could it really become a workshop for hope, as Robert envisioned? He looked over at Noah, sleeping peacefully, and realized the decision wasn't just about him. It was about building a future his son could be proud of. It was about proving that even the most ordinary acts of kindness could ripple out into something extraordinary. The very next week, Jack accepted Robert's offer. Together they transformed his humble garage into a workshop filled with new tools, better equipment, and volunteers eager to help. At first, Jack felt overwhelmed, but Anna stood by his side, guiding him through the changes. Noah became the little assistant, handing Jack tools or cheering when he completed a new design. Slowly, the garage evolved into a hub of innovation where custom mobility devices were built for children and adults who had lost hope of independence. Each smile, each tear of gratitude reminded Jack that this work had meaning far beyond himself. Word spread quickly across the community. Families who had struggled for years suddenly found themselves receiving wheelchairs designed not just for function, but for comfort and dignity. People began calling Jack the Mechanic of Hope, a title that embarrassed him but also filled his heart with quiet pride. He wasn't just fixing machines anymore, he was fixing lives, and through it all, Anna was there, supporting him in ways he never thought possible. For Noah, she became more than a friend. She became a mother figure, reading him bedtime stories and teaching him kindness through her own example. One evening, after a long day at the workshop, Jack found himself sitting outside under the stars with Anna. He admitted how much her trust had changed him. "I never thought someone like me could be part of something this big," he said softly. Anna looked at him, her voice steady but filled with warmth. "It wasn't about wealth or status, Jack. It was about heart. You gave me back my confidence, and now you're giving so many others a chance to live fully. That's something money can't buy." Her words touched him deeply, reminding him that his worth was never defined by what he lacked. As months passed, Jack and Anna's bond grew stronger. Their relationship wasn't borne out of pity or obligation. It was built on shared values, kindness, and a vision of making the world better. Noah adored Anna, and often told his father how much he hoped she would stay forever. Jack would smile at his son's innocence, but in his heart, he knew Noah's wish mirrored his own. The family they had once been missing was slowly forming before their eyes. What began as a chance encounter on a rainy night was now blossoming into love, respect, and belonging. Robert, too, saw the transformation in both Jack and his daughter. He often visited the workshop, sometimes bringing donors or volunteers, but always making time to thank Jack personally. "You've given me back my daughter's smile," he said one afternoon, watching Anna laugh with Noah. "For that alone, you will always have my respect." Jack, humbled, nodded quietly. He didn't see himself as a savior, he only knew that helping others was the right thing to do. Yet the gratitude he received reminded him of how far a single act of compassion could truly go. Eventually, Jack's story spread far beyond Dallas. Newspapers and local news stations began covering his work, calling it a movement of hope. But fame never mattered to him. Each time he handed over a wheelchair, each time he saw the tears of relief in a family's eyes, he remembered why. It all began. One rainy night, one act of kindness, one woman who believed in him enough to share her truth. His life was no longer defined by hardship, it was defined by love, purpose, and second chances. And so, Jack's journey came full circle. He started as a poor mechanic struggling to raise his son, but through kindness, humility, and courage, he discovered a life far greater than he imagined. Anna became the partner he had never expected. Noah gained the mother figure he longed for, and together they built not just machines, but futures filled with hope. Jack realized that sometimes the truth, no matter how shocking, wasn't the end of a story, but the beginning of a beautiful new chapter that could change lives forever.